Look at this. Look. This build is so much fun. Hey everybody, Brady here from Almost Pro Gaming with another Diablo 4 original build guide for you guys. So this character I was playing for the last couple of weeks and working on it, and it was alright, but after the buffs that happened yesterday or the day before, this build is so much better. And as you guys saw in that intro, like, this build does not run out of mana. This build just spams your big buttons to do a ton of damage. It spams fun buttons like Frozen Orb, Blizzard, Hydra. Like, those are all fun abilities to use. And wanted to show you guys because I think it's really good to the point where I think this could possibly be a new meta build if it picks up enough. It just does so much damage. Like, I'm only level 69. Nice. But I was killing level 78s in Nightmare Dungeons in World Tier 4. So yeah, this build is pretty strong. I just think I need bigger numbers and more points into my Paragon board because I've only got 3 boards, I believe, so far. But I do have everything planned out for the full future build, so I will show you guys that afterwards. But yeah, this build is absolutely nuts. But real quick, before we get into it, if you like original Diablo 4 build guides and Diablo 4 content, please hit that subscribe button and that like button if you would like to see more original builds like this from me in the future. So, let's get into the actual build now. So as you can see for the abilities, we have Ice Armor, which is our defensive ability. We have Frost Nova, again, another defensive ability. I know some of the meta builds use this as an offensive ability, but in this build, it is strictly just for defense. If stuff jumps on you, you freeze them to run away. That's it. So if this gets nerfed in the future, I think this build is still pretty safe. Blizzard. This is mainly just for slowing people and applying chill so that we can hold them in place while we destroy them, like you saw in that intro. Then we have Hydra, which helps us with single target damage and also just more damage while we're shooting into a big ball of frozen stuff. They also apply burning, which this build works off of a lot because all of our damage is burning and chilling based off of our enchants. And it just, yeah, it's just more damage while you're able to just constantly cast your Frozen Orb, which is your main ability. And then we have Ice Blades in here for some cooldown reduction, extra damage on top of everything. Also, possibly the other reason these two abilities are good too. So yeah, this build has the enchant for Frozen Orb, which makes it so that whenever you hit a non-basic ability, which is every ability in this build, you have a 20% chance, I believe it's 20% chance, to shoot out a Frozen Orb for free. So yeah, that's why Hydra having 2 of them, because we can spam 2, which means that's 2 chances of Frozen Orb. We have this, which we can put down, which is another chance of Frozen Orb. This also lowers cooldowns on everything, so that we get more buttons that we can press to shoot out more Frozen Orbs. And yeah, the main part of the damage though, Frozen Orb, I love this ability. I'm a Diablo 2 player at heart, and so I wanted originally to make a build that was very close to a Diablo 2 Sorceress, hence my gear too. If you look at the drip, I tried my best to emulate a Diablo 2 Sorceress with what we have to work with in the game. But yeah, so anyways, that's pretty much the summary of the build. You don't really spend mana, you kill and chill and burn everything, and it's just a ton of fun. So I guess let's get into the actual stats and stuff of the build. So I think first let's do the skill tree because that makes the most sense to me. Then we'll go over the itemization and then the Paragon board. If you would like a timestamp in the corner of the video right now showing you which times in the video you can fast forward to get to the parts that you want to see. But for now, skill tree. Build time. So we have 1 point in Frostbolt and 1 point into Firebolt. Reason for this is we don't use either of these as actual abilities on our hotbar. We only use Firebolt as an enchant to be able to give burning damage to all of our abilities, including our cold one. And then Frostbolt is just here because I needed another point to get to the next tree. Then we have maxed out Frozen Orb for obvious reasons. And then one cast above 50 mana, you do more damage, which is good for this build because of how much mana regen we have against hordes. You're pretty much always casting above 50 mana, which is great. Then we have Greater Frozen Orb, makes enemies vulnerable it has a 30% chance to make enemies vulnerable. So this is why this build isn't so reliant on Frost Nova making everything vulnerable, because this build, it makes stuff vulnerable 30% of the time, and it always happens if enemies are frozen, which is why we combo Blizzard and stuff into this to freeze enemies as quickly as possible. proc vulnerable with Frozen Orb, get mana back with Frozen Orb, and kill everything. Right here, we have 1 point into extra mana and a bunch of points into your core skills, deal 9% multiplicative damage when cast above 50 mana, because again, we're always casting above 50 mana with this build. Defensive, we have 1 point in ice armor, this node that gives extra mana regen when you have it active, and then damage against vulnerable enemies contributes more to the ice barrier. Honestly, you could probably do either of these. I just picked this because I think it helps a lot because of how easily we trigger vulnerable and how much damage we end up doing to them. While we have a shield, it just makes our shield even bigger. Moving down, we have Hydra as our second source of big damage. We maxed it out, obviously, and then took the middle node and then made them crit or increase their critical strike chance, because this is a critical strike, lucky hit, vulnerable, all the fun stuff build. So yeah, this just makes them do more damage and helps us get rid of those single targets that we struggle with when using our big AoE spells like Frozen Orb and Blizzard. Precision magic, we want lucky hit chance increased because this is a lucky hit chance build. We then have Ice Blades, only 1 point into it. Ice Blades cooldown is reduced by 0.5 seconds when it hits a vulnerable enemy. Good, because everything's vulnerable that we're fighting in this build. Summoned Ice Blades, 20% of Ice Blades cooldown reduction is applied to your other skills. So this is really the main reason why you run Ice Blades, is because first off, it gives you a button to press that can possibly cast a Frozen Orb with your enchanted Frozen Orb, but also when it's to lower the cooldowns on your other abilities so you can press them to get more chances to cast Frozen Orb. So that's why this is in this build. We then have the Ice passive, where we take 1 point into this just to mainly get access to this, which is while you have a barrier active, you apply 24% more chill, which is good for now, but eventually when I progress this build, I am going to take the Paragon node that makes it so that whenever you kill a frozen enemy, you get 15% of your life as a barrier. I've already tested that out. Like, I'll show you real quick. We'll jump ahead real quick. So that Paragon's right here. I already tested it out, but then took the points away to get to this glyph faster because I wanted more damage before defensiveness, at least at this stage in the game. Eventually, I'm going to want to add defenses into this build to survive the later game content. But yeah, I've already tried this, and it's amazing with this build. So you're going to have barriers all the fucking time. So because of that, we want more chill while we have a barrier. If you really wanted, you could probably put more points into this, but I might later on in the game if I find that I'm dying too often, but right now I rarely die and I just want to chill enemies and kill them. This is almost like a glass cannon build, despite the fact that we don't take any points in the glass cannon because reasons. I don't want to take more damage. That's basically the reason. And everything else that I have provides utility or damage in some sort of way, because this build not only is damage, it's utility. You freeze stuff and you hold it there until it dies. It's great. Blizzard, 1 point because we're just using it to apply chill, a little bit of damage, and slow enemies down. Especially like you probably saw in some of those clips, or I'll show one right now, where you put it in a corridor where enemies are going to be running to you, so they all get chilled and slowed as you just throw frozen orbs into them and hydras are just plinking away at them. Enhanced makes it do more damage to frozen, cool. But then we take, when you have an active blizzard, your core skills cost 10% less mana. So this means your frozen orbs cost less mana while you have a blizzard. So the blizzard is not only for chilling and slowing, but also making frozen orb more spammable. Awesome. Perfect. We then have a fire tree right here, because again, all of our frost abilities actually burn people as well as chilling them, because we took the enchantment for Firebolt, which makes it so that direct damage from skills applies up to an additional blah 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 burning damage over 8 seconds. I don't care about the damage, I just care about the fact that the enemies are burning, which triggers a lot of stuff in this build. So first off, your pyromancy skills deal more damage. That just makes your hydras do a little bit more damage. Not that important. This is your pyromancy skills have a chance to immobilize. I put 1 point into this. You could probably take this out and put it into glass cannon or something else if you wanted. I just wanted more chances to immobilize enemies. Devouring Blaze, you deal 30% times increased critical strike damage against burning enemies. Here's where it kicks in. My Frozen Orb gets this bonus because I'm burning the enemies with my Frozen Orb. It's amazing. I love it. Ice skills again, we take 1 point into this. Frost skills deal extra damage to elites, but then we max all of these out, and this is part of the reason Lucky Hit, cold damage against vulnerable enemies, has up to a 20% chance to generate 15 mana. This is part of the reason why our build can sustain itself, and we don't need a basic skill. We can just spam Blizzard, Hydra, Frozen Orb all day long. It's amazing. Yeah, more damage to vulnerable enemies, and more damage to chilled and frozen enemies. Then we take 3 points in here. Killing a burning enemy increases your mana regen. So again, we're always constantly just getting mana back, so we can just be pushing our biggest buttons and doing big dick damage. Great. And then for our key passives, we actually have Avalanche, Lucky Hit. Your frost skills have up to a 10% chance to make your next cast of Ice Shards, Frozen Orb, or Blizzard consume no mana and deal 40% multiplicative increased damage, and chances doubled against vulnerable enemies. It's so good. This is so good. And then I have an aspect too that I'm about to show you in a minute that makes this happen twice. So every time it triggers, you get 2 free skills that do 40% times more damage. So yeah, very, very, very good. Yeah, so that's the skill tree. If I do skill assignment, you can see the enchantments are Firebolt enchantment, which makes all of my skills burn, even if they're cold skills or whatever, they still apply burning. And then now Frozen Orb enchantment, which means frozen, or whenever you hit a non-basic skill, you have a 20% chance to lodge a Frozen Orb at nearby enemies, which again just allows you to push buttons and do damage. Every button you push has potential to do damage, even stuff like Ice Barrier. So now let's get into the actual aspects that I use on this character and the gear. So when it comes to the stats, I'm just going to tell you that you're really just looking for lucky hit chance, crit damage, vulnerable damage, and then damage to crowd controlled. That's kind of it. I guess you can go with damage to burning as well. That also works in that damage bucket. If you want this written down for yourself, I put it in the notes part of the build guide down below. So I guess let's go into the aspects and I'll explain why I have these aspects. So on the helmet, your lucky hit chance is increased by 20% while you have a barrier active. So this is mainly just for when I'm fighting bosses or in those desperate scenarios where I'm being chased down. I need to activate my barrier as a defensive ability just to make sure everything goes off. Honestly, you probably could trade this out for something else. This is just what I've been going with for now, and it's been working. On the chest piece, I have casting ice armor makes you unstoppable. I think this is mandatory in pretty much every Sorc build because you need some source of unstoppable to stop you from getting crowd controlled to death, which is the #1 source of death in this game pretty much. You may have 1 additional Hydra active, but Hydra's duration is reduced by whatever. You want to be able to spam Hydra and get 2 of them out of it, because that's 2 button presses that could possibly cast you a free Frozen Orb and get your whole combo going. And then also Hydra is just good against single target, which this build isn't like that great at. It's okay at it, but not that great. Yeah, the Hydras help with that single target damage. I have these unique pants that make enemies explode in Frost Nova when I kill them while they're frozen. I don't think these are mandatory. You could get a tankier legs, and to be honest, in the future, I might have to, once I get to higher level content. These might be replaced with tankier legs that have like damage reduction from close, all that fun stuff. And then the aspect I put on it is the one that gives you 2 charges of Frost Nova. That's what I was running before I found these pants, and I would go back to running that if I felt that I needed more durability. But for now, this extra damage and comboing that you can do with this, I just am having fun with it, so that's why I'm wearing these pants as of right now. Then we have Penitent Greaves, which I believe is the best in slot boots for this build. You leave behind a trail of frost that chills enemies, and you deal 7% multiplicative damage against chilled enemies. I got the lowest roll possible. Maybe I'll find some better ones, but I think these are 100% best in slot boots that you could have for this build. Then for the weapon, we have Frozen Orb stays in place after reaching its final destination and explodes 2 additional times for 29% of its damage. This is a Frozen Orb build, so obviously you use the Frozen Orb aspect. It's just so damn good and makes Frozen Orb do so much more damage. Like, this is so good. And the reason it's on a wand instead of a 2-handed weapon to be able to be doubled is because I actually want that lucky hit chance from the prefix on the wand. So yeah, that's why we have the wand instead of a 2-handed weapon. And then also we can have a focus that just gives us more grit. Like, this is the best focus I think I'll ever find. I don't think I'm ever replacing this focus. It's too damn good. The aspect on the focus, that's the other thing too. I needed 1 more aspect in this build, so the wand and focus combo over a 2-handed weapon is just the way to go. So the aspect on this, the avalanche key passive now applies to 1 additional cast. So that's that passive that I talked about that makes it so a lucky hit, 10% chance that my next cast of Blizzard or Frozen Orb is now free and does 40% more damage. Well, now whenever that procs, I get 2 free casts of Frozen Orb that do 40% more damage. We then have this ring, which has a bunch of good stats on it, but also restore 3 of your primary resource when you crowd control an enemy. This is part of the many different things that we have in this build to generate more mana for ourselves, so we don't need a basic skill, and we can just continue to cast Frozen Orb until everything dies. Then on this ring, we have burning damage has up to a 12% chance to restore 10 mana. Then on this, we have you deal 39% more damage to immobilized, stunned, or frozen enemies. This could be changed out. I'm not sure about this one because not every enemy that I fight gets frozen. Well, actually most of them do, like 90% of them do, which is the reason why I like this, but I think I might be able to find something better, but for now this is what I'm sticking with. As for the stats on this, I'll just show you my character stats real quick. So my crit is at 34%, crit strike damage 125 so far, vulnerable is only 55, but we'll get that up over time. Then we have a ton of just regular damage. And look at this lucky hit chance. Where is it? 58.2%. And then when I have a barrier, it goes up to 78.2%. That's a lot of lucky hit chance, which procs a ton of stuff. So then we go into the Paragon board. I'm not going to talk too much about this because I have the build down in the description. So if you don't really care about the reasoning behind everything, just click the build and push the buttons. But yeah, the reasoning behind all of this, I can just summarize it. I'm literally just clicking on stuff that's going to give me multiplicative damage within that bucket. Because if you don't know what I'm talking about, there's damage buckets. So everything that says like damage with or damage verse, so like damage verse cold, damage verse poison, or damage with poison, or damage with cold, all of that is in one bucket that gets multiplied against vulnerable damage, which is in its own bucket, which gets multiplied against crit damage, which is in its own bucket, which gets multiplied against multiplicative damage, which is what you see here on this glyph at the bottom. 10% multiplied increased damage. So all of that happens at the end, which just makes everything super big numbers, kill stuff quick. So basically this, for an easy quick summary, the glyphs that I chose for this are all ones that just give me multiplicative damage based off of stuff that I have. So like this, 10% times increased damage to burning enemies. This one down here, same thing except for slowed or chilled or frozen. So stuff like that. And then if you go to the build guide down below, you'll see all of them pretty much the same thing. I'm just filling up that bucket with my glyphs, since the other buckets are pretty much filled with the stats on my gear other than vulnerable, but that'll work in over time. Oh my god, I got DC'd. What the hell happened? Well, I guess that's a good point to end the video, I guess. Oh, I guess you can see all my characters. But yeah, that's the Sorceress. I love this build. It's so much fun to play. I honestly think it could be the new meta build. I think you could do very high level dungeons with how safe this build plays, because you can play like I showed in clips. You can play from the back, hide behind your Hydras and a Blizzard, and just cast Frozen Orbs nonstop until everything's chilled or dead. So yeah, I love this build. But anyways, if you enjoyed this video, enjoyed this build guide, please hit that like button and subscribe so I know that you guys enjoy this content so I can make more of it in the future. And it would just help out the channel, and I'd appreciate it. So yeah, thanks for watching the video. Let me know what you think about this build down in the comments, and I will see you in the next video. Have a good one.